One, bang.
Hey guys, my name is Michael Licciardo. I'm the co-founder and the co-owner of Nutrition Capital Supplement Store. We're currently based in Sunbury and with an upcoming store location in Essendon as well. And we're servicing not only Victoria, but also nationwide with up-to-date post on delivery too. So we're in it to change the supplement game and to change people's lives.
Love it. So how'd you get involved in the supplement game?
Really interesting, mate. I sort of, outside of school and uni, I wasn't 100% sure what I wanted to do. And growing up, my background and my family, especially with my dad, he was very heavily involved with retail, so with sales. So right through growing up when I was 10, 11, 12, I'd always sort of worked in retail shops, or I'd been working from a really, really young age. And it's kind of all that I really knew. So I was working when I come home from school. I was working before school. I was working right through when I was at university as well. And I sort of always had a passion for training and for fitness. And I ended up finding myself in a position when I got back from Europe, when I was in my early 20s, and I'm thinking to myself, all I wanted to do was travel and party and have fun. I decided to take this direction, and I took a role at the time with International Protein, which was an Australian-based company. They manufactured and produced sports supplements. And, being involved there, it taught me a hell of a lot. Like, they are a really rapidly growing organisation. They're one of the fastest growing companies in Australia. They did win an award as the fastest growing health and fitness brand in all of Queensland. So being there and being involved with, Troy Bremner and Haley and the team up there, it did teach me a lot in terms of how to think outside the box, how to dream a little bit bigger and how to make something happen, straight off the bat. So I think being there, it sort of inspired me, and I knew I wanted to stay in the industry that I was in. And at the time, I was just an account manager. So I was just like a normal road rep going out and seeing customers and seeing accounts. And I found that the entire sales process, and being involved in that environment came very easily to me because of my background and the way that I was brought up. And I've always sort of been able to articulate myself relatively well and engage with people and build relationships. So I sort of started to see a bit of a trend form with what I was doing, and I was good at my job. And obviously when you become good at something, obviously your enjoyment comes there as well. And you realize that you've got a really deep passion for whatever it is that you're investing your time and your energy into. So yeah, it sort of branched out from there, and I got poached to move across to UPS, which is owned by the guy that owns Derrimut Gyms, who was an account of mine at the time. And that was awesome. I learned a great deal being there within that organisation as well. Very, very sophisticated organisation, really, really good people to learn from. But then I realised, and I sort of knew from a young age, that I wanted to have my own. Like it was sort of what my dad instilled in me. He's always had his own businesses. He's always done his own thing. And, wanting that for myself, the opportunity was just there. I needed to take a risk. And, with my business partners, we decided to do that. We invested a lot of our own money, and we decided our own brand to life. Because being involved within my industry for a long period of time, you see the good things and you also see the bad things. And I think you guys are really heavily involved with the fitness industry and with training, right? There's a lot of shit out there. I hope that's right. If I swear, I apologize.
No, you're right. All good.
There's a lot of bullshit out there. There's a lot of information, a lot of innuendo. And unfortunately, I think it misleads a lot of people, especially those that are really susceptible and open to being led. So we decided to be the change. We wanted to be the change in our industry, and we formed Nutrition Capital on the pillars of, or three main pillars of community, educating, and service, which, for us, that's everything. We wanted to sort of be there for, the 5% of people that sometimes don't get counted, the misfits. We have a lot of people that come into our store that just enjoy being in our company and want to be there, chat shit. It's not even necessarily about supplements or training. It's a bit of a home away from home for a lot of people. And that gives me great pleasure with what we're doing. And we know that we're on the right track. I know that's probably a little bit long-winded.
No, that's kind of unique to have in a supplement store, because you don't really associate that too much with that type of business. It's a place you think people come in for a purpose to pick up something, or if they don't come in knowing what they want, they get that service. But to build community around that is pretty solid.
Awesome, man. And you know, it's crazy. And again, I'll sort of speak out of turn here, but when I was a bit younger, or when I wasn't in the industry, a stereotypical supplement store for me, there was, you know, floor stacks of mass gainers and some roided up bloke behind the counter trying to sell you something that had the highest margin.
Classic.
No,
Classic.
really, really intimidating for females to walk into. Like, it's super intimidating. It just would never happen, you know. So what myself and my partners decided to do was, let's change this around a little bit. Let's change the dynamic of the store and the feel and the look of the store. So when you walk in, we created like a boutique supplement store. That stock was up on the walls. We had glass shelving, polished concrete floor, greenery. It was just it's probably the most unique store that I've ever seen or walked into. And we also decided to change the modeling of our product. You know, we probably 70% of our customers are actually female, which is crazy to think. We sell a lot of things like healthy snacks, baking treats, cookies, just little things that are open to a general population market that everybody can be consuming, regardless of whether you're an athlete or whether you train or whether you're a mum or whether you're whatever. You know, we don't really diversify in that regard. We don't isolate. So it's sort of open up to everyone. And I think that's what's really helped us grow and develop, especially over the last 12 months.
Yeah, you see that a lot with even just the marketing for individual supplement products. You know, it's full on extreme, this, that, some claws out there, some panther on the product. I don't know. It's just crazy. Yeah. And you walk into these stores, even for people that, even for blokes that are brand new to gym. I remember walking in first time, you know, skinny little African kid, and you just walk in and it's daunting. It's like walking into an actual gym or walking into anywhere, because it's like you fish out of water. But you can tell with Nutrition Capital has changed. Even the branding, the logo, is it's cool. It's clean. It's like white, blue. These colors are different, calming.
Yeah, that's a big one. You know, I don't know if it's just me, but I seem to pay a lot of, and like Sam and I have had our own fair share of business experience as well. Like, we formed our first company when we were 19. So, I mean, ever since with the very start, I mean, you sort of get obsessed with some details, but I've always found myself really trying to catch on to those things that people wouldn't get maybe at a first glance. And I'll try and look a bit deeper and think like, how is it going to make them feel? Or when they see this, is it going to display a different message that you're like, oh, that's pretty smart. Like, they did that on the back end, and try and get those real specific, those true fans, the 1,000 true fans that are going to appreciate the little things you did. I can see that.
Yeah, it's the smaller details. You're actually 100% right. And I'm really, really lucky to be associated with my partners and my staff. Like, we've got really good people in our business that make it what it is as well. And I think you're 100% right. What we've sort of created, and it's been a lot of hard work to get there. Don't get us wrong. And we're still nowhere near, but it's creating a culture. You know, when you walk into a gym or an environment, and you can get you get a feeling straight away about the culture with where you're at. And a lot of that actually has to do with the people that are there. You know, when you walk into a new gym, how many people come up and say hello to you? How many people talk to you or address you like an equal? You know, you don't feel like you're being judged or looked down upon, you know. For a supplement store especially, there's so many people out there at the moment that are really, really, you know, self-conscious, or they have a lot of fear and they have a lot of doubt. You know, I know a lot of people that may be overweight or culturally diverse that might not want to walk into a store like that because of the fear or the perception that they may be judged. You know, how many people, like, we see people all the time, like a lady or a man that may be overweight. You know how daunting it is for them to walk into an environment and ask for a fat burn or ask for an advice and ask for help. You know, if you can create a safe place for those people, like a really, really safe environment where they like coming in to engage, to talk and be open, it goes well beyond health. You know, it's more to do with upstairs. You've given them a safe environment. You've given them a safe place. You don't know what's happening at home. You don't know what's happening at school. You don't know what's happening in other facets of their life. But you can give them an environment, whether that be a store or whether that be a conversation. That's my job done there before anything even sold. You know,
that's awesome. It's mad to build a business upon those kind of solid pillars. You know, sales, marketing, these are always going to be there, but to have those core values, those core principles in there are pretty spot on. There's something I wanted to quickly ask you. So when you started out and you decided, okay, you always had in your mind, of course, I'm going to go out there and create something on my own. That's pretty Italian. That's pretty spot on. And it makes sense. You know, it works every time. When you have something that's yours, it's just always the right way to go if you have that capacity. What were the biggest keys so far, because it's still pretty early in that journey, in starting on your own, that you would say for anyone else looking to start out their own type of business? What are the keys to making sure you get started, you know, pretty quickly, but also get started with your best foot forward?
Yeah. So my advice there for anyone, regardless of what industry they're in or looking to do things by themselves, is you need to sort of upskill yourself first. Okay. You need to be prepared for the fact that it's not going to be easy. Like, there's going to be challenges and difficulties along the way. You know, I think as I read, there's a crazy stat, like only 4% of small businesses actually survive their first year of trading, for the amount of ones that actually get up and going. And it's not easy. So it's a financial risk. You know, you're going to have late nights. You're going to be doing things you don't necessarily want to be doing. So my advice is to really understand everything, all these components that go into making a business, the things that sometimes you don't even get taught in school or in environments. Ask people that have been successful that you take criticism from. Ask them for advice. They might own a supermarket or a physiotherapy studio. But if you can see that they've got a really good system in place and something that they're doing is working, pick their brain. Ask people that have done it before, because I'm sure as hell, when I went through school, I didn't understand about accounting and certain budgeting processes and things that you've got to do that you don't even know exist. You know, paying BAS, how to do your accounting setup, things like that. Like, you know, the things that you don't understand. And when you look at high level businesses, there's people designated in those roles to do those things, but you don't see it. So, but it still needs to be done. So you need to make sure that you understand all the facets and components of what it takes to be successful. And the only way you're going to do that is by upskilling and asking people that you take this from. So that's what I did. You know, I'm kind of lucky. I had a really good role model. You know, my dad's always been in business, but I've also worked for people that have been super successful. Like my old boss, Nick, owns all the Derrimut gyms. You know, he started from basically nothing and built up, and now he's got, I think, 20 or 22 gyms across, you know, 2 states in Australia, and runs a multi-million-dollar business. I mean, that's super impressive, like, to me. Like, regardless of how he's gone about it or what he's done, you know, that to me is super, super impressive. So learning.
You have to respect that always, you know, when there's some sort of accomplishment on that level. It's always, everyone that's going through it like yourself, a business owner, you know what it would take to grow successfully to that stage. You also know that it wouldn't have been easy. There would have been some sort of trial, some sort of
growing pains. And people look at him and other people that are successful, and they might see things that are materialistic or chauvinistic, but there's a reason they're there. You know what I mean? Like, everyone can display it differently or do whatever they want, but there's a reason those things are there, and and I've seen it. It comes from a shit ton of hard work.
It's good that you say that, because when I get this question asked so much, and it's like, especially during this time for any brick and mortar store, especially, people always like to say, how are they still there? Or as if they're still running. Like, do you reckon they make a bit? And the easiest answer you can ever give is, if they're still open, the doors are still open, they're doing all right. You know what I mean? It's like they haven't lasted this long because they're not doing all right. They've figured something out and they're doing something right.
And it's also that character that they have, you know, like, when you think about the gyms right now and you talk about Nick and Derrimut, you might think, wow, there's no one coming into the doors. He might be struggling. But to get there, you're going to have to level up in certain ways. It's going to take a certain type of person to even get there. That type of person will always be okay. He'll be able to shift on the spot, do the things needed, you know, to make sure that the business is going well. Whether that's shifting online, finding other ways.
When you want something, like for example, you look at you guys, when you want something enough, it doesn't matter what the circumstances are. Like, if you've invested X amount of money and your time and your energy into doing something like this, you got no choice. You have to diversify. You have to change things. Like, right now we're in the middle of something that's probably a 1 in 100 year event. Yeah. And, you know, you speak to people all the time, and everybody's circumstances are completely different. So we're never here to judge, but you sort of start to see the people that have a different mindset. You know, that want to either play victim, or they want to just think about all the negative things in the situation, which that's a choice. Yeah. And I understand everyone's under really, really trying circumstances and duress. But then you have other people that are willing to change the way that they think. Look at a different positive outcome and think, well, yeah, the circumstances are shit, but what can we do? How can we get better?
And that's the mindset that will take you to the right place. Because either way, things aren't easy. Things aren't good. You might as well adopt a mindset that says, all right, how do I make things better? Other than sitting in the same, if you're going to be in the same place anyway, be in the same place with a better mindset.
You're exactly right, man. You're exactly right. And I think this has brought it out. It's either force people to become more introverted and go the other way, or you've gone forward, like you've taken a step forward. And I'm not talking about business. I'm talking about personally. Like, you know, at some stage, you're not human if at some stage over the last 6 to 8 months, you haven't struggled with something, you know, about the way that things are and how dramatic our life has changed. So normal. Yeah, that's normal. I see that as absolutely normal, but you need to embrace that. You know, you need to embrace the situation and embrace the circumstances and sometimes make hard decisions and, you know, and move forward with them. That's just part of being an adult and part of growing up.
You pointed out a good thing there in terms of upskilling. When I asked you, you know, what one of the keys be, and you said upskill yourself. That stuck with me straight away, and it would have stuck with Josh because with the player one mindset, something that is really enjoyable to us that we love to do is to look at ourselves as a character and then pick what do we need to level up in, what do we need to upskill to get to where we want to get to do what we got to do. So that's a massive key, and I'm glad you pointed it out because it's something we have to constantly do as well. So next question that would lead me to would just be, what did you see that you had to upskill, level up to bring you to the next level, or I guess to start your business well? And what did you already have inherently? What skills did you already have that gave you a little bit of an advantage going in?
Great question. You know what? And I'm going to sort of be a little bit vulnerable here. I think I needed to really work on my consistency. So, you know, one thing that I've always sort of had that's held me in good stead, regardless of what I've done, is I've been able to engage. You know, I can build really good relationships with people, not necessarily friends, but acquaintances and colleagues. And that's always held me in good stead. I've always been able to find a way or shift or maneuver or pivot my personal circumstance to suit the situation, whether that be in work or personal life. But over the years, you know, you sort of struggle with that consistency of effort. And, you know, how bad do you really want things? So unless you are prepared to lose something, and you don't know what that feels like until you have something on the line to lose, that's something that I really needed to level up with. You know, be really consistent. Every day, get up, show up. Like I get up at 4:30, 5 o'clock every day now, and I work at our supermarket. So we own a family supermarket as well, on top of my nutrition stores. So every day, I'm up at 4:30, 5 o'clock, and I work. I get up and then I go do what I need to do for the stores. And every day is sort of routine and inherently routine. It changes depending on what we have to do. But that consistency and that regularity is something that I didn't have before. And it's something that became really glaringly evident to those people that I spoke to in Upskill was they've got routine. They've got consistency. There's less variables and less things that can go wrong when you have consistency.
That's a big key. That's a big key. Yeah, and I'm seeing that as well. It's funny. That's why it's sticking with me because I'm seeing that. And for me, it's a bit of a different one. So growing up, very religious, we have like a prayer schedule, you know, so you have to wake up before sunrise and pray. And what I didn't realize was that gave me such an edge, which I didn't actually realize. I just kept that as like
it's just something that's normal. It's something you do.
So as soon as I started to follow like the structure of that prayer schedule less and less, and I started to realize that things were out of whack. Things that I taken for granted were out of whack. And I realized because of that early wake up and that structure. Yeah. So that's why it's like straight back to waking up. Doesn't matter what it is. You can wake up, meditate, pray, go to work, just stick to that routine. And the way you pointed it out was just, it stuck real well because there's less things that can go wrong. When you know what the roadmap is daily, you know where you can put certain things in and you know you can't do this. You can say no to those things because you know that I'm going to be doing this at this point. You can start chopping and changing, but it's such a key. And everyone seems to do it.
The older I've actually gotten to, I know it's not sounding great, but sometimes I'm a little bit more forgetful. So like little things like actually writing stuff down, which I never did before, like it actually has helped me to sort of maneuver my days and make me a lot more productive with what I'm doing. Yeah, it's a great question. I get it a lot. And sometimes actually doing a bit of self-reflection is very, very daunting. Like you don't want to turn around and publicly admit that sometimes you can be lazy or publicly admit that you can work harder or be more consistent. But as soon as you acknowledge those things with yourself, which is the only thing that matters, and with the people around you, things become a hell of a lot easier. It feels like a bit of a weight's lifted sometimes, and you can know, righto, this is what I need to do to get better.
Yeah.
100%.
And that's it. That's a big step. That's a big step right there. Because you got to be honest. You got to be able to have that assessment honestly. And if you can't do that, then you're really starting off on a lower platform, because you're not going to know what to change. The same things will happen. But what my mistake was, I found, was it would be easy for me to be honest and figure out the things to change, and then the key is then to start to change them. That's the big key.
The implementation of those changes always hard, especially when you're making a shift with something like that. If there's small tweaks or if there's behavioural changes or things like that, it's probably a little bit easier. But I've just found that's probably the most important thing to me now. Is I can get up, like, even the wake up time is one of them, but with my business partner and the way that we're operating as well, I've just sort of found that his strengths might be my weaknesses, and vice versa. My strength might be his. So we're playing to our strengths now with our business, and that is so important. Just to elaborate a little bit more in detail with the question is, what's made it easier for me is just beforehand, I felt like I needed to have control of everything, because that's the only way that I felt comfortable. But as time's gone on, especially, I'm super lucky to have, Jose and Anna and Dave and Lockie and all my staff in the business, because I've seen how much they've developed and grown as well. And they've taken a lot of that responsibility on too, which sort of brings me to my next point. Our plan sort of moving forward with the scalability of our business, so like having a second and a third and a fourth location. And for our business plan that we've mapped out over the next 3 years, giving that trust back to the people around you and allowing them to play their role is the most important thing in the system. And them trusting me to do mine is just as important, and that's sort of built over time. But it certainly probably wasn't there at the start, because, there's so much anxiety and angst around starting a business and all the things that could go wrong. And I remember when we signed the deal, or when we signed the contract to actually get the first store location, it was just it was an old frame shot or something like that. And it needed a lot of work. And, I gave QE a call, and he was straight there. Like he helped me. Like I was just overwhelmed at the start.
People don't know he's a wizard on the tools.
Oh,
he's
mate,
absolutely wizard. Oh, my goodness.
Unbelievable. He's great. He actually took a lot of pressure off me, because at the time it was probably a little bit overwhelming. It's the first time I'd forayed into it, and just little things like that. I relied a lot on the people around me, and I'm super lucky. I've got some great people in my life and people that care and that wanted to see me sort of succeed. And that I'm very, very grateful for. Now, when we're doing number 2 and number 3, I feel a lot more confident with what we're doing moving forward. I'm very lucky.
Well, when you're saying that, I've got a bit of a 2-part question on this one. Just trying to break it all down. So my partner's dad, he owns a pretty successful mountain bike store here in Sunbury as well. And he's been at it for years, and he's been doing really well. But the point is, he sat me down the other day, had a bit of a bonding session. He said to make sure that you appreciate the small wins along the way. Otherwise, you're never going to know when you've hit them. He said you're going to hit some sort of destination you've mapped out maybe 3 years ago, and you won't understand that you've actually had the small wins along the way, and you're not going to appreciate when you're there. And it's cool that you say that, like how it was cool when you reminisce on starting your first one and you see the doors open and the rush of and the anxiety of trying to get open at a certain time and trying to make it work. But do you have like a bit of a thing where you sort of stop every now and then and just think about how far you've come so far?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think this is probably just because of the way that I'm wired, but I sort of wear my heart in my sleeve. I'm kind of a very emotional bloke at the best of times. And that's neither here nor there, but I find myself self-reflecting a lot. And Jose, my business partner, and Anna as well, have been there from the start. We actually do it a fair bit, which I think is really, really healthy. So with traditional retail stores as well, all people usually focus on is milestones of figures and numbers and sales. But our benchmarks and the things that we hold ourselves accountable for are a lot more than just the numbers sort of at the end of the screen at the end of the day. You know, we take pride in the amount of new customers and new people that are engaging with our social media platform, with our website. We take pride in the partners and the people that we work with, like the businesses that we align with that have helped us out no end. You know, Empower Club, Crew Fitness and Performance. You know, we shot a over and out media. You know, Benny Toman. We shot a promo video at those locations. You know, we use friends and staff and family of those people in those videos. That stuff doesn't go unnoticed. Like things like that. You know, we love engaging with our customers and our staff. So our metrics and the things that we look back on in terms of growth are a lot more than transactional. They're a lot more than just the money or the profits, because realistically, that's a byproduct of everything else that you do. You know, if you're good at what you do, the money and the wealth and the success, it comes as a byproduct. And realistically, the goal isn't necessarily money. The goal is a bit of freedom. You know, everyone wants to make money so they can be freedom and they have free choices. So for us, it's kind of a double-edged sword. You know, we actually love what we do. It creates an income for us, but it's so crazy to reflect on. Like our business has only been open for 15 months. And, you know, sort of based on the numbers and all the metrics that I spoke about before, you know, it looks like we're one of the better performing retail outlets in the state, you know, and for us, it's a super achievement, you know, for such a new business. And it gives us hope and it gives us drive. Like it really motivates me. Like when I get out of bed in the morning, you say, right, what happens when we open 2? And what happens when we open 3? You know, if people love our brand this much and love what we do and love what we provide, what's next? You know, like what could happen? And that's
affirming.
Motivating.
Yeah, it's very affirming, and you kind of use that to drive forward.
Yeah, it's like we're doing something right here. People want to come into store. People want to engage with us, ask us for advice, talk to us. They love our product. They love our service. You know, we've invested a hell of a lot of money. Like we've just bought 2 brand new delivery vans. So what we identified is at the start of this pandemic, the biggest issue was postage and freight. So what are we going to do? We've been driving our orders to our customers in our own personal vehicles every single day for the last 4 months. So if I've got an online customer on the other side of Melbourne, the owner of the store is packing the car full of orders and driving directly to their house either the same day or the next day from the order to introduce themselves and to give them their order. And for me, things like that, it's time consuming. Yeah, it's costly. You know, we're putting miles in our own car, but we had to do it. You know, I'm not going to put my parcel with Australia Post and wait 2.5 weeks for it to get 30 Ks down the road. Bite the bullet. You know, and little modifications and little things like that. And what we spoke about before with the business being built on service, we've had no idea how much positive feedback that we've actually gotten from our customers. People looking at me like, are you for real? Like, are you serious? I'm like, yeah, absolutely.
That's an absolute game changer. I remember when we first, do you know who Nick and Alex are, the owners of High Smile?
Yep, yeah. I've heard
we bumped into them years ago. And when they were first coming up, before they were killing it with McGregor and the Kardashians and that, and he goes, every single order that they pack out, everyone gets a handwritten thank you. And it's that simple.
Yeah, we actually do that as well. I mean, and I won't take credit for that. Anna, who's Jose's partner, who actually runs the Sunbury store, she's got amazing attention to detail with things like that. And she comes up with some crazy cool creative ideas. And you know that's actually created? Like the power of social media, right? So what happens now is we've built a culture where a lot of our customers will take photos of their order and their handwritten note from Anna, and they'll post it onto their social media platforms. And we tag it and we reshare it. And by the end of the day, we might have 20 or 30 people that have received their orders, giving us positive reviews on their socials or on our website that we're reposting and resharing to their followers as well. So all of the stuff that we're doing, the marketing is actually organic. Like it's actually coming from our customers that we're able to reshare. And that creates a really good culture. And that's something that's taken a lot of time. But mate, it's a lot of hard work too. You know, like it's not easy. You're driving to the stores every day, putting, 200 or 300 clicks on the car, literally every day, which is why we invested in these vans. And, even that investment in itself is huge for us. Put it in.
But it'll pay off. And that's the good thing, because people are hesitant to invest in areas that don't provide immediate payoff. But when service is one of your main pillars, like you mentioned, you know where your money goes, because your money goes to where your pillars are, and it's going to build something amazing. It's good. People that, I've even seen those photos around on social, so it's definitely working. And with the point about driving around, I remember Josh and I, we had Tiki Tribe. We had our first few orders for Tiki. Mate, throw it in the back and off we go. And I remember even hitting up Liam Palumba, who's a friend of ours, and I was chatting this morning. I figured out the connection. And to Pastor Don. And I knew that him and his dad, I met his dad at their beach house a few times, and I knew they had some cooler vans, some frozen vans. So started talking to them about that. But just knowing that, hey, if you have the capacity to do that yourself, that delivery yourself, let's do it. Rather than outsource it and not be able to know how quickly that service would get delivered there. But it's more the personal aspect, because I guess you could maybe figure out a way for it to get, you could, hire anybody to just go out there and smash those deliveries out. But personalizing it with the note, everything all comes together, that one package. Yeah.
Do you know what our plan is? And we've said this all along, is one of our goals is we want to have same day or next day delivery for all of Metro Melbourne. But instead of using a third party postal service, I'll employ 2 people, man. We'll employ 2 or 3 people to head on the road and do it. It might be more cost effective for us to do it that way, but that service is something that only we're doing. And I know that for a fact. We are the only people at the moment in my industry that are doing that, whether it's now in the pandemic or before. And you might not see an immediate return on investment. You might driving an order to someone's house that day, they're not going to give you $10 to do it or $5 to do it. But what they will do is they'll be a repeat customer. They'll come back to your store. They'll shop more frequently. They'll appreciate the service. They'll ask for help. That's where you see the growth. And that's where we've certainly seen it as well.
Yeah. It's building something really, really, really solid. I'm keen to see where Nutrition Capital ends up, because from what I'm hearing, it's like, it's no surprise that you're, headed in the direction you guys are headed. But I'm keen to see it, because when a business, invests in those kind of areas, that's when it becomes something more than a business. A business can be set up, and it's kind of, you can see businesses existing as a way and a system of making money, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. That's a function of business. But then you can see things that set certain businesses apart, things that set Crew and Empower apart from these other gyms, is they focus on other things, other aspects, community, these kind of things. Absolutely. And it's also something I'm seeing now, especially with looking at, Josh and myself, we see ourselves as just a slight generation back. And when I look up at people like yourself, Jacko, Paul, I see a lot of things done well, and of course a lot of banter. We learn a lot, but but what I'm seeing is community and being a genuine bloke and being a genuine person comes into play. Interestingly, when you're talking about the video, recording video, and you utilize the friends in the circle, I can see that happening with Josh and I now. We've got a good mate, Lewis, who I actually met through Josh, and he's a videographer. And he did a video for me leading up to my first fight, my first amateur fight, and he did some videos for Tiki, and I can just see how that kind of connection builds up.
Yeah. Do you know what's crazy, Sam? And I say this before, like, it doesn't matter what industry your people are in. Your product is people. Yeah. You could be selling PowerPoints, man. You could be selling chewing gum. You could be selling anything. Your product is always people, and I got taught this probably from a really young age. Everybody is a customer, and everybody requires service. So it sort of stuck with me. Like, it doesn't matter who you deal with. Yeah. It doesn't matter who or when you deal with that particular person. It's just the way that you treat people. And that's sort of how it's held firm for me, certainly. And it's held firm for a lot of the people around me with their businesses and with life. It works. It really does work. So there's no secret recipe. There's no things that make it come easy, and I'm sure my business and every other business is going to deal with hiccups along the way. Like, there's going to be things that happen and circumstances and challenges. That's normal. But that is one thing that's always stood by me. Your product is people, regardless of what your business is or what you're selling. So
yeah, absolutely. And not to backtrack a little bit, but this sort of just came in my mind now. But especially during sort of hard times, I've noticed with people around me, like my girlfriend's old man, he has a sort of ritual that he does, how he goes off on his own, and he's got this one chair he sits in to think and sort of plan ahead. and he thinks about how he's going to do this the next day and that. And then a lot of fighters have their own rituals of how they're going to go about going into battle. You know what I mean? Like, is it they're going to play to a certain tune? I know surfers like to listen to Jack Johnson. I've seen all sorts of rituals happen when you're about to go into something. Do you think there's a ritual that you have when you're about to go into, like, how you're going to navigate the turbulent times? Is there something that you always try and do, or?
Yeah, to be honest, that's a great question. I've actually changed a little bit about the methodology about the way that I do that. I used to worry a lot. Yeah. So I used to overthink situations and worry about situations that would keep me up at night and would make me anxious and stressed. So now, and then that would sometimes it would resonate with, my tone and the way that I would act the next day and the way that I would do things and the way that I would plan. So I try and set aside some time now where I'm not thinking or doing anything to do with work. I literally bought a PlayStation 3 weeks ago. First time I bought it. Something like that. I don't know. I haven't had one of those for years, right? And I'll literally spend like 40 minutes or an hour just like doing something like that where my mind isn't on anything to do with like work or anything stress related. And I find that when I do come back to those things, that little hiatus or that break, even for a short period of time, actually makes me think a little bit more clearly. It's kind of like it takes my emotion out of everything. Because what happens is when people overthink is they get emotionally attached to their thoughts, and then one thing leads to another. And then before you know it, you're stressing about something that hasn't even happened or that may never happen, and you're wasting your energy and you're wasting your time. So I think that little detachment for me has really, really helped. And, for someone that's sort of dealt with those sort of issues and those sort of problems with overthinking and a bit of anxiousness, trying to implement a strategy like that has actually helped me make clearer and better decisions, and when we map out 3 months or 6 months or 12 months looks like down the track, I need to make sure that I've had that little hiatus or that little break from thinking in order to think clearly.
Yeah.
And it's something that some of the guys at the shop and the staff have sort of implemented as well, because, our business might have grown 70 or 80% over the last 3 months. And that extra workload and that extra time puts a lot of strain and a lot of stress on people, not just me, my partner, my staff, my girlfriend, my family, the people that I come home to. It puts a lot of strain and stress on them. If they can see me stressed, they take that on as well. So it's something that I've encouraged and something that they certainly do now is take a bit of downtime, like take a bit of time away from it. You need a break, you need a bit of time off, or do something, go for it. Like, things will get done because we bounce off each other, but that's a strategy that I've sort of implemented or only just started to implement as of late. And it's certainly helped me a lot. Like, outside of work, I love footy. Like, I don't play anymore, but I coach. And I think the way that I am is sort of, it's made to do that, if that makes sense. So, like, I like teaching, I like instruction, I like leading. And that for me, it was taken away this year, obviously, which is I've had to adapt because of the circumstances. But, that for me was a real game changer last year once everything was started. Like, we were starting this business and I was coaching, and that was my outlet. I would go to the football club through 2 or 3 times a week and, run around and really enjoy myself and have some fun with, I was coaching an under 19 side at Melton, and, at that age group, it's real challenging. They're just finding and partying and all this sort of stuff, and you're trying to keep them together and dealing with all the issues. And it was great. It was awesome, man. So, yeah, to answer your question, it's to find the thing that doesn't attach emotionally to work and the things that make you stressed out. And that's my strategy. That's what I do now. And currently I'll play a bit of PlayStation, or, I might go and spend some time with the missus, or go out for a nice feed or something like that. I might even turn my phone off or not take calls, because that's one thing. My phone's permanently attached to my ear sometimes, which is not great, but it is what it is with what we do. So, yeah, I detach myself completely for a short period of time, and then it helps me. It makes me think a lot clearer.
Yeah, simple as that. You just need that one little thing. I remember one time when we were going up to, it was like an Easter weekend sort of thing, and we're getting away for a bit because it was the same sort of thing. His name's Bruce, by the way. It's a long way to say it, but Bruce was getting a bit worked up, and he just been flat out, and he's like, let's just go away. And that was just his way. That's his outlet. And either that, or he's having a punt on the horses or something. But so we go away.
Everyone's got their own thing that they do.
Yeah, exactly. And you need to, someone said to me as well, because someone was like, oh, maybe that's not a good one to do, or they're sort of trying to pick it for them. And it's like, it doesn't matter what it is, as long as you can moderate it and control it. And obviously it's not something that you fully invest in. It's just that outlet. Like you don't need to, I don't know. Some people like to think that it's a poison to one, but it's more of like a potion to someone else, if that makes sense. Like if it's your thing, then you got to do your thing. You know what I mean?
I think what I've sort of found is anything in excess. So anything in excess, even if it's a good thing, is never really good. Like you look at things like, I'm not talking at the extreme level, like you look at things like eating disorders and things like that. It's people that are trying to do something in excess, even though they have the notion that it's a good thing. So people talk about like drug abuse and smoking and alcoholism as, oh, they're really, really bad things. And, you know, they're obsessive and they're vices. But for a lot of people, that's their outlet. It's gotten taken too far with their behavioral change. So anything in excess, I don't think you need to have some level of balance with what you do. You know, it could be eating healthy. If you eat too healthy all the time, it's not great for you either. Like you need to allow yourself mentally to eat some of the things that you want to eat and try and find that balance. So yeah, it's just for me, I didn't have a balance. You know, I'd worry or I'd stress about things that I didn't have, and then it was just constant. And then I'd make bad decisions, or you know, I'd be in a mood, you know, like or something like that. I wouldn't make clear decisions, and that was because I didn't have any balance there, you know. And that whatever that balance may be, it might be training, or you know, I'm a social person, so you know, I like spending some time with my friends and family. It just gives me a bit of a release. That balance has helped me no end. Like, and that's something that I'd always recommend to people, regardless of the circumstances, to try and find something else away from it to detach themselves.
Yeah, that's perfect. And also just stepping away from the business for a second, just an absolute curveball. So we'll see how you go. But what do you think about the nature of reality, your existence and everything that we're doing here?
Interesting question. You know, being I wouldn't say I'm a lateral thinker, but something that I've always sort of been around, and we all are around, is like the notion of death. Okay, so some people, especially me, I process death and reality and living in probably a little bit different. And then it's kind of like the constant unknown, really, isn't it? Like, is there life after death? Is there this? People have faith. People have different opinions. You can't really prove anything scientifically, but the notion of death is really, really interesting because it affects the notion of how you live. So again, it's something that only becomes prevalent when you're around it or when you see it. So just to share a bit of a personal story, we had to let go of our family dog a few weeks back, Jake, the German Shepherd. And that was the first time I'd sort of seen death and seen how it looks. Like you have family members and relatives and stuff pass away, but it's very different when it's a visual and when you see it, and for something or someone that's very close to you. And that really, really, really affected me. And then it sort of starts a train of thought about, you know, our mortality, where we are, you know, what we're going to do in our life, and and your notion of reality changes when this is my opinion, when you see or when you're around death and you realize how fragile your environment and the circumstances and the things that you worry about actually are. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of fragility around our life, like the things that are around us, houses, money, cars, business, friends, family. Things can be taken away from you very, very quickly through no necessary fault of your own. And I can understand why people deal with grief differently and why people deal with loss differently, because those circumstances change. And us as human beings, we're innately wired to find a response, or to find why something happened, or to find a reason, or to put the cause or the blame or the effect on something so we can move forward. So I think that's the biggest challenge. Yeah. I think that's the biggest challenge for all of us is.
Yo, amazing. Hang on, I'm just muted. That's all right. That's a perfect sort of answer. That's exactly what I was looking for.
Yeah. So that for me, that's probably the main thing is realizing the fragility. And then, my take on reality has changed a lot the more you're around, for me, death or visually.
Yeah.
That's a big thing for me. But yeah, good question. It wasn't.
Thank you. It's a curveball. I've asked it to quite a few people And I love hearing the answers you get back because it's sort of, I don't know, I spent a lot of time thinking about these sort of things just because I think like it's a crazy. Pardon?
What's yours? Well, how would you answer that question?
Yeah, so the nature of reality?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think very similar about that. I think that it's pretty crazy how fragile things are and how I think about this a lot. So I think about that we're very, very insignificant, very small, not very powerful. We're very fragile and we come and go very quickly. And it's almost like we're a bit of bacteria when you think about the scale that we exist on. But I really like to think about the time frame in which we exist, because if you look at, and there's this YouTube video that explains it really well, but it's something to like the 9 billionth of 0.1% that humans are alive in the span of the universe is alive.
Yep.
So you think about that scale and you think, why would that even happen? Why would we even be here if it was only for that short of a time? And then you think about how beautiful life can be. I mean, it's a pretty crazy thing that if this was all a big coincidence, that this all happens, that we feel these emotions and we can see these things and some pretty surreal things will happen. And it's like, is that insignificant though? Is it insignificant because we only exist for a very short time? Or is it
only significant to you?
Or yeah, well that, because obviously we're relative, right? We're trying to think relative here. But or is it the most beautiful thing to have ever happened ever, even if it was that quick? And I think about that's the way that we should be looking at it, because you can say that. I think about we talk about the game is life and the possibility of it being simulated, and that we're really just a game here. But the question always asks, people think about one question. No one thinks about the second question, because you can say this life might be simulated or whatever, but the next question is, so what? Like, what if, you know? And the next one is, well, then is it an endless loop of simulations? Who knows? The point is, you don't really know the origin, right? And it doesn't matter if it is or if it isn't. The point is that we're here for a very, very small amount of time, and it comes and goes like that. Like you said, it's very, very fragile. But because I like this quote. This sums it up. I think it was in like a movie Sparta or something, and they're talking about the Greek gods. And he says, the gods envy us because we are mortal. And I think that is beautiful, because it's like we are here for the shortest time. We come and go, and we know that death will come, but we do these things anyway. You know, no one's just, if you get stifled and you do nothing, you've wasted this miracle that you're here. But if you do those things, even though you know you're going to die, that's just, I don't know, it's heroic. There's something very beautiful about that.
And you know what else? It's like when you hear people say, like, on the tombstone, there's a date that you're born and there's a date that you die, and that dash in between is kind of what matters. And you think about, okay, in that little dash, what can I do? Is it, some people might approach it as, how many things can I do? What impact can I have? And something I came across recently, actually talking to some family members, was the impact you can have outside of that dash is the legacy you leave behind and what you leave that others can capitalize upon. Yeah, but that's just to cover that thing. Whenever I hear questions about the nature of reality and I'm asked about what I think of it, I always say, because I've thought about this, as Josh and I have thought about this many times, and it's hard for me to develop an opinion on it, because like you said, it's like no one can know anything. And all I've done, and the camp I fell in was, because it's an enjoyable topic for me I like to look around and see what other people have thought about it. So that's where I fall. My opinion, I can't have one. All I know is that we're here and that I want to do some things. And that's it. And I'm gonna go and try and do those things. And along the way, I want to have a lot of fun, a lot of experiences. But about the actual nature of reality, of I can't have an opinion on it. I can't, because I can't choose. I can hear only about these things. I can hear different perspectives. So what's interesting for me is to actually look at different religions, to look at different generations of people, and see the similarities that they traverse across. You see how, like, the Abrahamic faiths have all similar stories in the Bible, in the Quran, in the Torah, similar stories. And you think, okay, so maybe there's something here. Maybe this tracks back to a starting point of someone who maybe thought about some certain things, and then it branched off and whatever.
Right. You know, I actually kind of agree with you. And the more you talk about that, is you look at most, orthodox religions, you know, whether it's Islam or Christianity or any people of faith, whatever it is that they follow, they usually follow some context of text in regards to how to live their life, whether it's the Bible or the Quran or whatever that text or whatever that dialogue may be. It sort of all leads us back to the same thing, if that makes sense, about how to treat other people and how to live your life. So, you know, it's a really good point that you actually make, because innately we're wired as human beings to want to find answers to things, like whether that's what science is all about. Like that's why there's this
part of human nature.
It's this age old science versus religion. You know, faith in the unknown versus what we can prove. So when you talk about the nature of reality, I think innately as humans we're wired to figure out, well, what's the why? You know, what can we prove? What can we identify? And then the faith aspect of it is things that we don't know, or things that we innately will never be able to know. We don't know the answers to those questions. So wherever you sit or whatever your viewpoint is, I think it's important to make people aware that there is no right or wrong answer to it, right? And if you start to, or if I start to convince some people that my viewpoint on the nature of reality is right, which is what happens in a lot of conversations, like, no, this is, people try and impose their will on those conversations. It's an open-ended question that's probably being asked now more so in our generation than what it was 50 years ago or 60 years ago or even 100 years ago. You know, people that were talking about those sort of things long before our time were probably way ahead of their time, you know, philanthropists, philosophers, people like that, which makes you think, where are we going to be in 100 years? You know, or where's this conversation going to be in 100 years time, when we know more scientifically and when we know more, or whether we practice more with our faith?
Here's another little curveball question, but you just kind of led me into it.
Yeah, go for it.
Where do you think we will be? Let's say 50 years from now, where do you think the world will be? What kind of things do you think, anything that you think technologically might be there? Do you think the nature of business will change because society will change?
It already has. So I remember, like when I grew up, right, I'll give you a perfect example. My first phone was a Nokia 3310. And then I flipped over to the Motorola Razr, and that was off its head. I used to love the polyphonic ringtones. And like I used to, no, I'm not taking the piss here. Like if you look at how much the world has changed in, I'm showing my age a little bit now, but 15 years, right? If you look at how much the world has changed in 15 years, and then you extrapolate that by 50, or like by an extra 35 years, at the rate of growth, and I think I read this, or I had a look at the statistics, the amount of artificial intelligence that's being created at the moment, people laugh, right, when they think about artificial intelligence taking over the world and taking over livelihoods. It's almost already happening. Like, you know, there's so much dialogue and so much content out there at the moment about how bad it actually is, or how good or how bad it is. But technology was created to try and help the human race. At the moment, it's just suffocating it. Like it's completely swamped. And some people use it for good, some people use it for bad. Like, for example, business. Like, the old way to advertise a business was used to do letterbox drops and put ads in the newspaper or in magazines, or go on the radio. Why do you think like radio advertising and stuff and television advertising has gone down so much? It's because you can reach far more people far quicker using social media platforms, you know, or using website engagement, because everybody's attached to their phones, like me included. I'm not adverse to that. That's just the truth. So if you think where we're going to be in 50 years time, already warfare is happening biologically and technologically. Like countries and people and governments are attacking each other without firing a bullet. Yeah. So 100 years ago, there was a battlefield and people used to go into battle, die for their country and all that sort of stuff. Biological warfare is happening right now. Warfare with technology is happening right now. So if you're thinking about, and if you look back, so the only way to predict the future is to look back in time. Oh, this is just my opinion. If you look back, hello?
Oh, sorry, keep going. You're right.
Yeah. If you look back over the course of history with people, you know, like Roman days, Julius Caesar and different emperors and rulers over time, greed sort of will always overpower. And that is the same. Like we have human beings running governments and parliaments. They're not robots. They don't make indistinct choices. They're human beings that can be swayed and be led and manipulated. Yeah. So when you leave that much, or when you have so much power in people's hands, it makes it very, very easy to create another dictatorship, or
Mm.
it makes it very easy to lead the masses, especially now with the tools that technology, like you were saying, have created. So easy. And I'm fearful about how far we're letting technology get away from basic human interaction. And the world that my kids are going to grow up in is very, very different to the world that I grew up in. It makes it hard to parent as well. How do you know what access they have to online portals and platforms? Because
these are all legitimate thoughts. Yeah. I've seen it with my little brother, because growing up, what kind of technology? We only had a computer. I think I was maybe 11, and then we had to share our computer time, if I did well around the house. And
we
it's
used to have dial-up. So I
we-
used to download like music and stuff and all that. And
LimeWire.
no shit. It would take like 17 hours or something to download 2 songs. And I'd sit there and leave the computer on overnight, drain the power batteries, call people on the landline. No one's even got landline phones anymore unless you're a business.
Yeah, wow.
It's crazy.
It's changing like this. And then you look at things like Elon Musk just came up with the Neuralink, and something Josh and I have constantly talked about. Have you heard about Neuralink?
Is that the brain implant?
Yeah, it's an implant. And what the potential it has technologically is mind-blowing. It's actually mind-blowing. Even just the fact that they've managed to pull it off on live animal subjects that are functioning well with no harmful physical repercussions that we could see anyway.
Is it just open pathways, like in your brain? So you use actively more of your brain?
At the moment,
no. It's an extension. So it's not allowing you to use more of your brain, as in like Limitless, that sort of movie. It's actually an extension on top of it. So it adds a third layer to your brain. So obviously you have your limbic and your neural, whatever. So you have your emotional and your logical, and now you have your technological on top. So it's actually an extension into your brain.
Wow.
Yeah. The way Elon described it is, and this is him describing the end product, the end goal of what he wants to get to. So he talks about it as, you look at your mobile phone that you have, and people say that integration with technology and humans is far away. He says, well, in reality, we're there now. If someone asks you a question and you don't know the answer, you pull your phone out. It's definitely in your pocket, and you'll search it up and you'll know. If you need to know an equation that you can't solve, you can easily solve that. So the only thing that's different is the interface. Okay, so we still have to utilize the phone to get the information. What this Neuralink does, and what his aim for it to be, for its final function to be, is to remove that relay time of information. The way he describes it is as relay time. So if I ask you a question or I type it into a computer, it could be 0.4, 0.6 seconds. For us, it might be 5-6 seconds, because it's take it out the phone, search it up, get the information. Whereas the Neuralink will remove that capacity. So the you're accessing that information and that knowledge and those answers without having to pick the phone up. That's incredible. You can send messages through thought. If you have an idea, let's say you have a business idea and you want to share it with your business partner, but you just had the concept in your head and it's fresh. It's still in that early stage. You don't know how well you can translate that into words and whatnot. You can just pass the concept on. It's incredible that this is even something that's being worked on right now, and that an entry level product of this is working in animal trials. And
it's like sorcery, man. That's crazy. Like, even the concept of thinking that way, thinking that way and bringing that to reality. Imagine him coming up with that concept, how crazy people around him would have thought that he was coming up with a concept like that, and then to even be at a stage where it's had to bring that to reality, I think is just phenomenal. But is it good, or is it a good thing or a bad thing?
That's the thing. That's the whole debate, isn't it? It's like, is it good? Is it bad? There's a lot of people. There's a guy actually called Nick Bostrom who writes a lot of journal articles, and he's well published. And Josh and I have read one of his articles called, it's to do with simulation theory. So that's how we came across this guy. But he has many other publications on this exact topic, the integration of technology, humanity. And what's kind of commonly understood is that there's nothing we can really do about it. There's no one that's going to lobby to remove phones or to limit technology or to keep it at where it's at. That's just it's a double-edged sword of humanity. We want to progress. We want to get to that next level. And it's something that always trips me out, because then I start thinking, you look at the civilizations that have been around and you think, how far did they get before something would have brought them down? Because every single civilization has been brought down prior to our human civilization. And you think, whatever it was, did they see it coming and were blinded by it? It could be that our civilization is looking at that thing right now, which is what's given us our progress, which is our technology, but it's also going to be potentially the bane of our existence. Because how can you regulate something that everyone loves and appreciates? And this is for us that think about it. What about the people, like you said, that don't even consider these concepts? They just run with what gets given.
People might laugh. We might have a real life Terminator situation on our hands in 100 years. Like,
imagine fighting someone with an implant that could like switch things around.
It would just be phenomenal. And all these concepts, although they're like, they might seem so far-fetched to people that might be listening to this right now, like when you really delve into it, you're absolutely right. We're not that far away from being at that stage right now. And if you incorporate the rate of growth of technology, like I spoke about before, it could come around much sooner than what you think. It's completely changed the course and trajectory of most of our lives. We've changed businesses. You've changed personal relationships. You've changed everything based on the concept of being able to.
That's a big one. Even personal relationships have been affected by technology, and not affected. It's just, this is how it is now. You know, there's things to consider that are just part of what we live in and how we live that impact every single aspect of our life. It's like technology and socializing through technology is crazy. It's just crazy that it's here. And I see it because I have a little brother, and I'm like, I can see how growing up, I would trade my time, you know, with my older brother. Hey, we put our computer time together so we get an hour on the computer. And then you get kids they're coming out with iPads at like 4 years old. I will never forget walking in the city and I saw a kid, unless it was a dwarf or something, this kid looked like, he was genuinely a kid with a coffee and an iPad, you know? And I'm just sitting there thinking,
what a life, eh?
What is going on? He's wearing a school uniform. Wearing a school uniform, but it has to be primary school. And I'm like,
anyway, mate, that's crazy. Like, and
throwing around.
You know, the problem is though, like when people are doing research about how much it actually affects us, it won't happen until 5 or 10 years down the track until it's happened, and then they can measure something that's reactive. Like, how much actual quantitative data you think is out there right now about the behavioural changes in kids age 4 to 10 because of iPads or because of phones? It's actually happening and it's evolving right now. And one day they'll study it. And one day in the future, when it's reactive, they will find out how much it's changed. But unless you reflect and think about, what was my life like?
Yeah.
You don't realize how much it actually has. It's the most incredible thing.
But you have to take advantage of it, you know, and that's something that Josh and I have looked to do even now, like going through different businesses and whatnot. And we stepped back and we said, what if we, to take another shift in the conversation, what have we gotten out of these skills in terms of skill set experience? As you would understand, starting any business or company, you're going to get a lot of experience. You're going to learn a lot of things that you might be surprised to even learn about yourself and your own capacity for things, but you learn. But something we learned was that we have a slight advantage in terms of technology, in terms of social media, because we've just been exposed to it for a longer period of time. And the inception of social media was kind of at that stage where it was right there in front of us. So we said, okay, let's take advantage of this and start utilizing that little bit of expertise and get something positive out of this technology generation that we're a part of. Yeah.
You know what? That is one thing that has really, really helped a lot of people. And I think that's one area where technology has really helped us evolve, you know, is our ability to be able to connect with people. And, you know, it's double-edged sword, as you were saying before. But there's so many people and independent business owners that are now thriving and putting food on the table and supporting their families based on, you look at social media influencers, you know, you might think it's a crock of shit, or a lot of people might look at them or view them all differently, but they're feeding
making money
and what they do.
Yeah.
You know? And people like me are employing them in order to put food and money, like money in my pocket and food on the table for my
It's family. A whole new network of how things work, you know, it's just how it has to be.
Yeah, 100%. And I think a lot of people that judge social media influencers are actually jealous of the fact that they can do that. That's just the truth. You know, people might take the piss and you know, it would be hard, man. Like, imagine the scrutiny that people people's delving into every aspect of your life. You know, that's a pretty hefty price to pay in order for you to live that sort of lifestyle. And it's the same if you know, you've got a profile and you're famous. People pry into your life. So, you know, I think everyone can be quick to judge sometimes.
Judging never serves, never serves much purpose. From what I've seen in my few laps around the fucking sun, judging doesn't serve much of a purpose. really at all. I've seen it being judged and then judging in turn. And I realized, wait, the best way to go about things, completely focus on you and yours. You know, who's in your circle, identify that calmly, quickly, and that's it. I'll care about their opinions and really not much else.
You're 100% right. It's usually just shining a mirror back in your face. Like the more judgmental you are, that clearly just highlights things that you may be insecure about that you need help with. So
exactly,
that's just part of human nature, and I think that's why the older you get, and the more I've sort of started to see this as well, is like your friends and your acquaintances, they thin out, and they thin out naturally. And I think that that's a really healthy process. You know, I think that that's a really healthy process for all of us. So, and I think that a lot of that has to do with the judgment that people outlay. So, yeah, you're right. You know, geez, you've delved into some really heavy and deep topics.
Well, to be honest with you,
I've got my nutrition capital notes next to the computer, and we're talking about fucking reality and stuff. This is great.
To be honest with you, yeah, look, that took a turn. I'm glad that Josh threw that curveball out there, because
it's good. I'm always open
these
to
podcasts,
conversations, man.
Yeah.
These are good. I love this sort of stuff. This is awesome.
Yeah, it's interesting. But it takes two to tango, you know, because not every guest, I guess, we can hit certain things with. We get benefits in each and every area, but yeah, I'm glad that we took a bit of a turn. But to switch it back to nutrition capital, what are the goals? What's the end goal? What's the end goal?
Well, this is an interesting one, because obviously when you put your goals out in a public forum and stuff like that, like I said before, you can be a bit apprehensive and daunting. But, you know, for us, I'm not really going to shy away from it or sort of downplay it. We believe that we have something that our goal within the next 3 years is to be the #1 sports nutrition retailer in the state. So we want to make sure that we have our own backyard covered. You know, we want to make sure that as we upscale our business, that it doesn't take away from our service. It doesn't take away from all the things that we're currently doing that make us so good at what we do. Because we see that time and time again. You know, people get greedy, they try and upscale, and then things drop off. They don't have the right systems in place. So, you know, without being too quantitative, I'd like to have maybe 9 or 10 stores or outlets within 3 years. Which I think is super achievable, and obviously as we grow as well, that process becomes a lot easier, because our staff grows, our systems become better. We're constantly improving. You know, it's not as labor intensive. You doing everything at the start. You know, that growth comes from having good people around you and really good systems. So yeah, I'd like to have 9 or 10 outlets. We'd like to have some subsidiary businesses and spin-offs to what we do that complement our customers. So now we've got a really good idea of our customers and our target market. You know, we'd like to delve into doing stuff like, you know, maybe some active wear and things like that are specifically targeted towards general population people. You know, most of the active wear lines you see out there at the moment are for guys that basically like tops that are painted on, and you need to have the perfect rig to be able to wear them. And, you know, there's nothing real. I'm serious. Like, right. Yeah. And you look at, I love looking at different brands and different concepts. Yeah. So you look at brands like Lululemon, okay, for an example. Like, this is a completely different realm to what I'm in, but, you know, they appeal to like mums and people that do yoga and the people that run and people that go to the gym. It's sophisticated, it's edgy, it's stylish.
Yeah,
people appreciate it. You know, it's not just marketed and driven and towards, you know.
Yeah.
So, and that for me is super important. Like, if you look at our customer base, and this is a conversation we were having the other day, I'm like, you know, 70% of them are mums or, you know, females or males that would fit into a category like me or you or anyone. They're not necessarily athletes.
Yeah.
They all they shop for activewear. They might go to their local Rebel Sport, or they'll go online, or they'll go shop at Ect or Nike or those sort of brands. But, you know, is there anyone out there that sort of caters for them? You know, so then those sort of thoughts started to come into my head. But again, this is more sort of a spin-off. Our main focus is obviously nutrition capital and becoming the #1 sports retailer in the state of Vic. And then who knows? You know, we've set at that goal in our mind for the next 3 years, and to make sure that our service, our quality, and our standards and what we do doesn't drop off just because we scale up. You know, making sure that the people that we bring into the business that are going to represent our brand are people with the same morals, the same ethics, the same thought processes, and the same drive that what we have. And we've been super lucky. Like, we've been able to identify the people that we want, and they've wanted to come to us. Like, they've wanted to be a part of what we're doing. you know, sometimes with businesses like this, staffing is your hardest issue, trying to find good people, you know, because it's difficult. Some people want
Yeah, of
to
course.
your business as much as you do.
And they represent, you know, your business is your baby, and it's like, you need to make sure that, yeah, I 100% feel you.
Yeah, and like before anything else, they've got to be good people. Like they've got to be people that I would want to converse with and have a conversation with and want to spend time with outside of work. And we've found that so far. So yeah, we've got some internal goals and things are going really well at the moment. But again, like we were speaking about before with fragility, things that can always change. You know, we're in the global pandemic. You know, what's the landscape going to look like when things open up? How do we need to adapt back? Like what things do we need to re-implement? It's kind of one of those things. Yes, we've got a 3-year plan. But at the moment, we're quite literally taking it week and month by month because as the goalposts change, we need to as well. So yeah,
what about the actual supplements? What about the actual supplements themselves? You know, you talked about, you know, quality and service across the board. Because I don't know too much about supplements, all I've ever done is, from my experience with supplements, has always just been what works and what doesn't.
Yeah. So I'll put the question back on you. If you were going to walk into a supplement store, I'll put the question back on both of you. What do you think is the number one selling product in a supplement store? Just your guess.
Protein.
Whey protein.
Funnily enough, there's been a shift and a trend in the market. Yes, protein is a really, really important thing and it does sell. But what we've sort of found is, and what we've identified, there's been a shift in the market more towards health than performance. Yes, you've got a performance market. And yes, you've got people that are there for muscle recovery and growth and to add supplementation to an existing diet. That's normal. But what we've also sort of found is there's a huge market, and you can see this with the products that are being brought to market with hormonal health, things like estrogen,
adrenal,
magnesium support formulas, things that help you sleep, because everybody sleeps, not everybody trains. Yeah. So what we've sort of found is there's been a bit of a shift within the market, and what we've tried to do is cater to that for our customers. Yeah. So gone are the days, and this is just our modeling, gone are the days of the old school supplement store. We've tried to create a really, really inclusive environment with some different products. And I'm sort of bringing maybe a little bit of my supermarket background into this as well. Is our modeling is we've got a lot of single serve products in the store. Yeah. So we've got a lot of things like healthy baking mixes and, you know, healthy treats and collagen based products and things to support postnatal and prenatal females and estrogen detoxification, like I was saying before. And all of a sudden, your target audience in your market just expanded by 50%. You know, if you have a 60 square meter shop and 80% of it's full of protein, you got a market that's this big. Yeah. And that's important we're thinking is our customers, what we've found is that they're obviously shopping more frequently because they like coming into store because we've always got a different offering for them. We're always providing advice and education. So we do a lot of free education with, you know, lives, and, you know, we've got great relationships with our suppliers. So just recently we had Greg Hagland, who's the founder of Switch Nutrition. You would have seen Adrenal Switch before. They're an Australian brand, but they're brilliant in terms of their formulation and what they do. And a lot of their products are built around that. You know,
what was his name? Sorry?
Switch Nutrition.
What was the guy's name?
His name is Greg Hagland.
Greg Hagland, Switch Nutrition. Okay.
Yes, he's the formulator. He's the owner. He's actually based in Queensland. Absolute ripper of a bloke. Really, really engaging. The actual full live is on our Instagram page. So if you if you wanted to have a look at some content and have a look at sort of the stuff that we do and we like to provide to our customers, that's the brilliant example. It goes for about 40 or 50 minutes, but if you're interested in learning about that sort of stuff, I mean, we had some of our customers engaged for the entire time, 50, 60, 70 people online that just didn't budge, asking questions, engaging with him. And
that's crazy.
Unbelievable. Like, it's really, really cool to actually have that and to have a customer.
Especially for a supplement store, it's so unique. It's so unique, you know, it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen like that, you know?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. You're absolutely right. So yes, again, sorry if you're going off track, but to answer your question, that's sort of where we're headed and how we want to evolve. And what we want to do moving forward. Like that education, we don't necessarily see a return on investment in that straight away, but you're providing the tools to people to be able to get better at what they do. So whether that be functionally, like with energy, mood, it could be like we've delved into a gaming market. We've got products specifically for gamers that are online, which is That's
really,
crazy.
really,
Like, that's incredible. Like
yeah,
a supplement store doing things for online platforms, you know, and that's become evident as well with what we do. So diversity is key for us, and being able to provide that service is awesome.
I like that. That's exactly the aim of the game.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, especially the way you described it, that switch, it's kind of, I guess when you mention it, the light bulb ticks off people's head and they start to see kind of what's been happening there. Even with the shift towards people looking into, I guess, nootropics, and then you see that whole field, you see gut health, adrenal, nootropics, brain function, cognitive function. Like, this is a massive shift, and it's only usually a very small section of a supplement store. It's only you walk in, it's like on the corners, a few bottles, one or two things, but the rest of it is giant tubs of protein. But taking that shift reminded me of a book I started to recently engage with called Blue Ocean Strategy.
Yep.
It's you'd love the book, especially even just maybe like a YouTube breakdown of it. It's all about analyzing different businesses and looking at how they shift within the market. So creating the reason it's called Blue Ocean, he says that usually there's a red ocean. So if you look at one of the examples they use in the circus industry, there's a red ocean where people are competing with each other on the same factors, price, whatever other factors are within that actual market. Price is common amongst everyone, but there's also quality, there's also other factors. They identify these factors and they say, look, everyone is competing on the same factors. It's red waters. Looking at ways, and they have certain strategies and certain tools that you can use to kind of analyze different businesses and look at how you can make a shift within that space. And the example in the circus industry is Cirque du Soleil, as opposed to the traditional circus feature of how it would be. You walk in, you sit down, you pay. Instead, they shifted towards something completely different. They took away animals, especially with people looking at animal rights. They noticed where the shift was occurring and they did different things. They changed it. Another example they use is Yellowtail Wines. I think Yellowtail Wines, and looking at how they shifted within that and just creating that blue ocean, uncontested market space, and then capitalizing. And one of the biggest advantages is if you can notice a shift and go there first is gigantic.
Huge.
But the book identifies that as a massive benefit, but it also gives tools to create uncontested market space in existing industries. But it looks like you're doing that. It's fun.
Yeah,
it's fantastic.
what happens is, I think the ultimate flattery for that is when you see your competitors or see people around you copy what you're doing.
Yeah.
Ultimate flattery, you know what I mean? And we don't pretend to be pioneers or groundbreaking with anything that we're doing. We're just looking and constantly evolving for opportunity. We're not the first people to market the way that we do or to make that shift, but we're certainly amplifying it. We're certainly making it a cornerstone of what we do. And I think that's resonating with a lot of people. And we've got a lot of qualitative data that suggests that too. Well, it's measurable.
Mm-hmm.
But you're absolutely right. It's interesting. You don't know what you don't know. It's kind of like a bit of a suck it and see thing. Some things that we've done haven't worked. Some things that we've done have really, really paid off. But now that we know what works, we can
double down.
Yeah, hell yeah. Yeah. Absolutely double down. So it's been interesting, but man, I'm super excited, because we've got so much stuff in the pipeline for the next 12 months.
Oh, I'm keen now. We're
bringing the 21st century back to the supplement game, mate. So we're trying to really, really evolve.
It's going to be interesting.
It's going to be super interesting. I'm super excited. The landscape might change dramatically.
Health. People are just massively focused on health in that area. It's kind of that niche of protein and creatine, BCAAs is great, but it's kind of restricted to just people looking to train and jump in and out. And there's even more longevity in those other health products, because these are products, like you said, people will use them regardless of if they're training or whatnot. People want to sleep better. What do I use? What do I do? It's crazy.
What's amazing, Sam? And I'll say this as the last thing with this point, but there's a direct correlation between physical and mental health. Okay. And as a society, we're becoming more and more aware of that now, probably more prevalent now than anything else. And I think our gym spaces, that's one thing that they've learnt dramatically with their members and the dialogue that they've had with their community of how much of a mental outlet, stress relief being at the gym is. Mm-hmm. What we want to do is we want to be the first, technically we're a retail outlet, to link that connection between people's mental and physical health with their supplements and their external what they can externally use to help and aid with that, if that makes sense. Yeah. Like we don't pretend to, I'm not a psychologist. I'm not an accredited person to deal with those things. But what we can do is we can provide a platform to help. Like we have all different types of people walk into our shop, man, from all different backgrounds and all different circumstances. Yeah. So in saying that, why can't we help those people and put them on the right path to do what they need to do to help better themselves? Do you know what I mean? Like
with education and everything, it all ties
why
in.
does it have to be transactional? Why do they have to come in and get their adrenals, go to the counter and pay, and then that's it? And that's the last of the interaction.
Why not create that relationship?
Yeah, that's it.
Business is, marketing. People are all focused on how do I get in front of my customer. And what you mentioned to me is like, it's just amazing because it's like, you're capitalizing on exactly that. You've already got the customer right there. Why not build the relationship and use that? And from an altruistic perspective, you're doing it for something good. You want to help. You want to provide education. You know that this is a business relationship that will benefit two people both ways.
That is the end goal here at the end of the day. And we have customers, and we get it all the time. We have customers that message our page or that we interact with that have been shopping or that have been customers with us now for 12 months or sometimes longer, right? And what I've noticed, and we have these conversations all the time, is we see the change in them. And it might not necessarily be the supplements or what we've done, but I can guarantee you that our relationship with them has been an influence and a part of that change. Does that make sense? Like, we see them like on a regular basis. It might be weekly, it might be bi-weekly, who knows, right? But we can see the change in those people. And for some people, those relationships,
that'll be so rewarding. That'll be so rewarding.
It's crazy. It's absolutely incredible. And for us, a retail store to have that, or a store that's branded as a retail store to have that connection.
So unique.
So proud. It makes me so.
I can even see, like, I'm sure you'd be thinking of ways that you can, when things are back and COVID's back, and maybe even a few years down the line, sort of events you can do to kind of build that. And
man, it's crazy. Like I shouldn't say this, but the Essendon store that's coming, we've actually split the store into two components. And the back of the store, what we're actually doing is we're going to build kind of like a bit of a content creation room. So what we're going to do is for our partners and people that want to use it, like for example, we have a number of athletes and businesses and gyms that we work with. We want them to use that space to create some content, to have their challenge nights there, to educate and to help their community. Yeah. And it's great for us because it's in our store and it's branded and that we're building that connection. But how cool would that be, man? Like how cool would that be to have like a space there for people to use?
That's fantastic. It shows where your mind's at. It's great. Yeah. That's crazy. Yeah. It's going to pay dividends as well. And even without paying dividends, it's such a great thing to have. It's just, it represents exactly your principles that you mentioned at the start of this conversation, so that's awesome, bro. That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm super pumped, man. It's going to be really exciting.
Well, look, that was exactly the reason that I thought you were going to say. Like, this is the whole reason I wanted to have you on. I was sort of guessing this is going to happen, and I'm pretty stoked. The
conversation's just sort of flowed on, isn't it?
It has. It's gone everywhere. But I'm stoked about that. Like, I'm stoked to have been able to learn and hear about your journey and see where you're going. And you're literally a game changer. You really are trying to change the game with this, and I'm stoked to hear about it. And I'm really glad to have you on, bro. It was really good to talk to you.
I'm super. Like, I just want to say as well, like, it's not just me. Like the stuff, especially with the business, like I've got to give so much credit to the people around me, like my partners and the staff and all that sort of stuff, because it wouldn't be possible without all them doing what they do. I'm just a cog in that wheel, like we all are, but I think that's what makes what we're doing so good and so special. It's not one person or not one thing that is making it what it is. It's kind of all of us. So I really appreciate that though, and I can't wait.
Kudos to all of you.
Pardon me?
I said, like, a big shout out to all of you guys. You guys are a well-oiled team. You obviously work well together and just deserve everything coming your way.
Thank you very much, bro. I'm looking forward to having another conversation in the not too distant future, and we can.
100%. Maybe we'll have a studio set up. Come on down.
Hey, if you need a manager when Dana White's trying to set you with a fight with Izzy or something like that, you just let us know. I'll come down. I'll be your major sponsor. I'll do the whole lot for you. We'll put NC on the road.
It's locked in.
Yeah. I love that. That was absolutely awesome. I didn't actually expect it to sort of take that tangent, but that was wicked.
That was look, honestly. We can feel the conversation flow, like, after having done so much. And I was like, about like a little while into it, I was like, mate, this is one of the best podcasts, one of the best conversations we've had. Things are flowing. It was so genuine. You dropped a lot of gems, so thanks for sharing those as well.
Absolutely. I mean,
awesome.
I don't know, what platforms do you publish them on? Is it Spotify, Podbean? Like, how do you guys do it?
It's everywhere. So we use a hosting platform called Anchor. Immediately, it'll go straight to Apple, Spotify, and 7 other low-key ones. And then we manually put it on our YouTube channel as well, and Facebook.
Can I obviously reshare through our platforms as well? Because we've got 6,000 people on our socials that I know would be interested in doing all that sort of stuff, and we can sort of get the way that, you know, I've got a lot of people that would love to sort of listen to this sort of content, if that makes sense. Like, there's a lot of podcasts and stuff out there, and for the mics doing a podcast now. So there's a lot of things out there that probably don't directly relate to what we do or some of the people that we have in our network, but this was definitely one of them.
Yeah.
And before I did this, I actually had a little bit of a listen to a few of the other ones you'd done and a little bit of homework, and it's kind of cool. Like, I listened to the Jacko and Paul one as well a little while back when you did it, but you know,
this was unique. This combo, this was great.
Yeah.
We touched on a few things.
You know, you've had a lot of guys with like fighting experience and things like that on here as well, and they've all provided really different insights to a lot of things. It's not necessarily always just about sport or their direct background. Everyone's got a really cool, interesting take on it. So yeah, any way that I can help share it, whether you want me to do it on our platforms or reshare what you guys are doing, just tell me and tag the shops. And
we're going to send us all the plugs. We'll put all the plugs out there, and everyone only buy from Nutrition Capital.
And boy, on a side note, if there's ever anything you guys need for your training, I don't know that you guys are competing at a relatively high level, just flick me a DM or flick me a text message, because like, I know that you'd get tested and all that sort of stuff. There's certain parts of our range that I probably wouldn't recommend, and there's some things that that are HESTA approved and that I know are above. I don't really want to take a chance with fate or anything like that, because with the amount that you guys will be training, keep it simple with like your supplements and what you're doing. Make sure that everything you're taking is completely above board, because far out.
And for people that don't know, you know, we've all three of us here have trained at a power before, and like we've chatted before, we've always got on well. Even with like in the past, you always tried to look to help me out with supplements, so I always appreciate that, bro. It's just things come full circle, and it's always funny and rewarding when you see things coming around. And
that offers extended to both you boys now. So if there's anything you ever need, work related, supplements business, just fucking hit me up, flick me a texty. No one's getting out of it alive, like you were saying before, mate. So we may as well share what we've got.
That's it. Done. Absolutely, same back. Anything that we can ever do for you as well, use those.
Thank you very much. I look forward to seeing you once we get the Essendon. Whereabouts do you live? Like,
I'm actually in Sunbury, so I'll go to Nutrition.
There you go. I didn't know that. I should have.
And there's a gym in Sunbury where this is how Josh and I actually met. Like, I lived in northern suburbs my whole life. Now I'm in St Kilda, but I came back here for the weekend. But I met Josh in Sunbury. I started training through, like, in Sunbury. That's where I started my martial arts career at Limitless Mixed Martial Arts. There's a guy there.
Is it like a?
No, it was right next to you know where like the 40 Winks and the Horseland. It was in that little part there.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's just at the end of the street from us.
Yeah.
We'll put you in touch with Troy if things work out. He's the owner of Limitless Mixed Martial Arts. He's a great bloke. Just the name of the gym, Limitless, I always tell people, shows you where his head's at. You know, there's so many MMA gyms out there, like, I'm not going to drop names, but so many with crazy names. But
I drop bombs, brother. I drop bombs.
And it's right here, like Limitless. That's the name of the gym. It just shows you where his mind's at. A lot of the things about visualization and a lot of things I've picked up, you know, from him early on. He kind of set me on that path before I moved off, you know, at Absolute. And we've always kept that relationship and chatted. And he's a great bloke. Yeah.
Mate, we'd love that.
Stocking up Limitless would be great, you know.
But not even from a transactional point of view. What I was going to suggest was, again, this is sort of touching what I was saying before. Fighting is a different world, yeah? Like, you've got things like football and soccer and gymnastics and like even weightlifting. People will just associate supplements and stuff with, you know, gym
fitness training, yeah.
But your world is a completely separate world, and it's an incredibly demanding sport, like physically and mentally demanding sport. Like, to be really good at it. And again, I'm only speaking from a third party. I'm not a fighter. I don't understand all the intricacies, but it's incredibly physically, emotionally, and mentally draining. So you know what? If anyone could need some advice or help with that sort of stuff within your world, just tell them to message us or reach out. It's non-transactional. I don't care if they don't buy anything or whatever, but surely some of you guys have questions that you want to ask about.
For sure.
Trying to get a 5% edge, because a 5% edge in your game could mean
everything.
You've been laying on the floor and not.
Yeah.
You know? So,
Everything.
you know, if there's something that we can do to help you, and this might extend to, you know, sleep, getting your recovery, being able to train more efficiently over a prolonged period of time, getting that consistency that we spoke about. You know, there's a world there that I'm not tapped into. You know, you guys certainly are, but just bridge those links. You know,
We will.
Either talk to us, or they don't care if they fucking send me a DM or whatever. Like, personally, I'll answer whatever questions that they have. Right. So, and then that way, obviously it's great for us, but you guys have the education, you've got the tools to make your own decisions.
And
and it will help.
Because it's so demanding, and it's a sport where it's constant output. You know, even if you're just training once a day, it's constant output. You got to rock up on. You know, you got to be on when you rock up, just mentally.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, you're physically pushing yourself. You need to have you see a trend now where more and more people are understanding how demanding it is and how they need to focus on not just, you know, BCAAs and protein, but on things that will really help you to.
Yeah. For me, mate, imagine top level, right? Let's just say you're top level, like you're running around at the best of the best. Imagine going through a 12-week fight camp, dealing with all like things like the media, the face-offs, the weigh-ins. Imagine how much stress you put your body through doing a weight cut, training, dealing with media commitments. Like, you can understand what by the end of people's careers, like within the sport, like they're just fucked. Sorry for swearing, but they're just cooked.
They're spent. They're completely spent, and there's only been a focus on how do I make sure my muscles are recovered. There's never been a focus on anything else, longevity, long term.
Stress hormones, like your body's ability to like adapt to, you know, flight or fight responses, like cortisol overload. So if your body is just constantly exhausted, you won't. That's why, like, you know, when these fighters win, like there's also that emotional rush. It's kind of like they're trying to keep it in check.
Yeah.
And they're stressing themselves out, keeping their emotions in check to focus on
an interview or this.
Yeah. Like, do you know what I mean? It's just crazy. And then you just see this huge outpouring of emotion. Like,
and it's so crazy when you fight, dude. It's so crazy because you're punching on hardcore.
Yeah. So you try to take someone's head out and then you start crying.
Yeah. And then you got to just stop and you got to just like, and then it's almost, there's always a weird point in the back when the doctor's checking you, whatever. And then you start to feel the pain of whatever's hurting. And it's just like, what the fuck just happened?
Emotions, man. It's just like, I have no idea. I only see it, like I'm a fan and I see it and you analyze those sort of things. And
you pointed some really good things out, And there's even a lack of,
like, imagine walking in there. Like, for me personally, like I'm a normal human being. Like, there's got to be some level of fear as well. Like, that has a physiological toll. Like, there's a realistic possibility you get the fuck out. Like, that's a thing that you've got to deal with as well. So,
so intense, but it's so good.
You're both rare, very rare human beings.
Hey, who knows? If you did it, trust me, I reckon with the mindset and like that commitment, if you got in this, you know, engaged with it, who knows, whatever, instead of playing footy and you somehow ran into a gym just like we had, you would have loved it because it's.
Oh, look at Paul. Paul was a great example. Like, he started day, man. Like, and yeah, he even says like he completely shifted his focus. Like not necessarily fighting, just with like life. You know what I mean? Like, that's crazy for someone that's just been involved with fitness and gyms and, you know, his thought processes his whole life. For him to like walk into a gym like that and then they completely shift his whole life, that's pretty fucking full on. Like,
crazy.
It's crazy. Yeah, it's unreal, and it just goes to show you like incredible amount of discipline and other things that you can learn off doing what you guys do that not many people have. Like, it's not just about fighting; it's about other things too. So,
absolutely. All right, that was beautiful. Let's finish it up there. Wrap it up.
When is it going up?
I'll do the editing straight after this. I can make it live. I can make it live by 6 p.m. tonight.
Done deal, mate. Let me know. Send me all the links and stuff, and I'll make sure we get it on our pages as well.
Done.
Legend.
All right, beautiful.